Humanity engineered a global infrastructure where everyone is perpetually reachable and endlessly online. Yet, a massive portion of the population feels entirely disconnected. Approximately 1 in 6 people globally, roughly 16% of the population, experience profound loneliness. This isolation is devastating. Severe disconnection is linked to 871,000 deaths annually, about 100 people every hour. The mortality risk of chronic loneliness equals smoking 15 cigarettes a day. We frequently attempt to solve this isolation by increasing the volume of our digital contact, relying on video calls and messaging to bridge the gap. But as psychologist Sherry Turkle identifies, these digital platforms often leave us alone together. They offer the illusion of companionship without the demands of friendship, functioning as emotional junk food, providing a dopamine hit while starving genuine intimacy. Loneliness is a lethal biological alarm system, signaling systemic failure. Our nervous systems were evolutionarily designed to function in relation to others. According to social baseline theory, the human brain's default expectation is not solitude, but proximity to a familiar and supportive tribe. Because the human brain is an incredibly energy-expensive organ, it evolved a strategy called load sharing. We survive by outsourcing part of our emotional and physiological regulatory burden to the community. When that social scaffolding is removed, the brain perceives a catastrophic loss of resources. It assumes it must face environmental threats entirely alone, triggering a state of chronic hypervigilance and exhausting metabolic debt. Under polyvagal theory, our nervous system requires specific physical cues to feel safe. We subconsciously scan for the melodic tone of a human voice and the subtle micro-expressions of a genuine smile to signal the amygdala to power down its alarm systems. Digital communication lacks the capacity to stimulate these biological pathways. Without face-to-face co-regulation, the human nervous system struggles to find equilibrium. Deprived of physical presence, our bodies remain trapped in a permanent, exhausting state of perceived threat. This sustained state of biological alarm eventually translates into cellular damage. Chronic social isolation triggers a specific gene expression profile known as the conserved transcriptional response to adversity, or CTRA. This process effectively rewrites our genetic behavior in response to perceived threat. On the left side of this cellular breakdown, anticipating physical wounds from isolation, the body upregulates pro-inflammatory genes, causing systemic inflammation. Simultaneously on the right, it suppresses innate antiviral responses. This dual shift leaves the individual highly vulnerable to infections and chronic diseases. Loneliness is a physiological disease that actively mutates our cellular biology. Our biology is failing because late modernity has systematically dismantled the natural habitats required for connection. The structures of remote work and hyper-individualism have isolated us in private silos. We have seen the disappearance of third places, the cafes, parks, and public squares where community unfolds. Interactions that were once organic and repetitive have been compressed into scheduled, transactional digital meetings. A powerful counterexample of healthy human architecture survives in the thermal bathing culture of Budapest. These environments function as true third places, granting humans the unspoken permission to simply linger together. Here, social cohesion is the primary function, allowing for serendipitous, low-stakes encounters that build trust. Repairing our cellular health requires us to recognize how our physical environments engineer our isolation. We must intentionally seek out spaces designed for human friction. Healing the nervous system requires recognizing that we are not isolated mechanical units. From the perspective of the fractal worldview, the individual is a living node in a collective field, a thread in a vast tapestry woven by consciousness. The first step towards resonance is replacing passive digital visibility with active, device-free physical presence. This signals to the nervous systems of those around us that they are safe, triggering the co-regulation that dissolves metabolic debt. We lower the alarms of isolation by intentionally constructing small offline rituals and serving local communities. These shared practices stabilize our relationships, creating predictable, safe spaces where belonging naturally emerges. Real connection happens when we drop our emotional armor And remember, we are living physical nodes in a deeply intertwined network. When we move with intention, the world ceases to be mute and begins to hum with the resonance of true belonging.